the League of Legends Championship Series studio here in Cologne. We still have one match to come, but as you can see, I'm standing with a member of our audience. It's Morris. Now, Morris, who did you come here to support?
I came here to support Evil Geniuses.
All right. And what is for you, what's your favorite player on Evil Geniuses and why?
I really like Wicked because he's playing top lane, and that's my position as well. And I kind of look up to him. I'm always looking his stream, and I really like how he does the things he does. He is a really aggressive player sometimes, and I really like how he's planning to escape afterwards, because sometimes he's actually seeing the opponent team drawing him in, or even lining up around him, but he always have a possibility to escape afterwards.
Do you play top lane yourself? Are you an avid solo queue player, and how are you doing there?
Well, sometimes I'm doing good, sometimes I'm doing bad plays myself, but it's still enough to keep myself in Gold Queue Division 1.
Now, you told me that you've been playing since Season 1. Did you ever expect that you would be here in this professional studio checking the league out?
No, I've never thought of that, but I was actually expecting League of Legends to grow to a community with such a big impact, to have actually a good ESL community, and I always favored LoL because I used to play Dota a lot, and LoL was actually growing with such an immense speed. That's what made me thought about becoming a League of Legends as a major ESL.
Great. Thank you very much, Morris. Now, in the beginning of the show, we asked you what has been your favorite change in Season 3 so far. And we're going to go over to D-Man, Jason, and Expeke to look at some of those tweets.
Yes, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And what has been your favorite change in Season 3 so far?
Well, pretty much that there are a lot of new items and you can play any hero.
You can play any hero. Yeah, I mean, it's really open. I guess as a mid laner, it's really opened the game up to you guys.
Yeah, you can play any hero you want right now, so it's kind of cool. I can even play Caitlyn mid.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed, we did see you playing Caitlyn. We saw you playing Ezreal as well, AP Ezreal. Is there any danger of breaking out these champions again in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I will try time to time a new hero that can work out. I just need to win one solo queue game with it, and then I will be like, okay, this works. I'm going to try it, seriously.
Yeah, I got this. I won a solo queue game. It's okay, guys. I've practiced it.
I have practiced this.
Look at my history. It
Trust
shows.
me.
I mean, is there new champions in there that obviously haven't been played yet that you can see have potential? And I mean, it always interests me because you see these new champions come out. For example, obviously we're going to have Queen coming out soon, okay. I guess. Thresh will be available next week. And every time this new champion comes out, say the Bruisers suddenly become big in mid, there's always a champion that's way back when, some really old, when there's 109 champions now, something like that, that you can pull out, some really old, 3-year-old champion.
Yeah, you could get Karma right now and destroy everyone. No, for real, she's really strong.
For real.
I think you can beat a lot of mid heroes with her, and people just don't try it.
Because, I mean, the thing with champions like that is actually there's a lot of people not used to playing it, so you catch them off guard.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't know what you're going to do. And
was it Saigon Jokers that actually played her?
Yes,
in mid lane?
they did, yeah.
And did pretty well with her because they kept putting a ward behind.
That was their shield comp they used to run, yeah. It didn't work so well when they tried it at IPL. It backfired pretty horribly, if I recall. But it worked well in the Garena League against I don't know who. But they managed to beat someone with it at least. So, Jason, we have a couple of questions, I believe, that we've managed to pick up from @LOL Esports. People tweeting at us?
Yeah, well, let's go with this one. We have Curse Kodai asks, is Xerath a viable bot laner?
Bot laner?
I'm not sure if he means as a support or it means as a 1v2.
1v2,
I'm not sure which one, but I'm assuming it's a 1v2.
I don't know how it means exactly, but yeah, I don't think you can play him 1v2. He's going to be really bad, and yeah, if he means as a support, I don't know what he means. Like maybe he means playing a support with Xerath or something like that. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he will work. You can maybe play Xerath and Taric, but then it's not going to be good enough. You're not going to have enough damage. They're going to sustain you, I think, and I doubt that. I wouldn't play that for sure.
Well, we do have actually responses to what are people's favorite changes within Season 3. And even Mark Mayo has actually got in on this. He mentions his favorite change, itemization, which enables more champions to be viable, or AKA Assassin's Mid. And you comment on this. You've seen a lot more champions finally come into play with all the new items, all the new changes. And actually, I have a question for you. What about Swain? You mentioned Karma, but we haven't seen really much Swain action.
I try some Swain, and he can work in some setup, but he has this problem that he's not enough tanky. He's tanky, but if you fall a bit behind, you're not going to get enough items to be tanky and damaged at the same time. He's like perfect. If you're winning, he's perfect. He does everything. Tanks and destroys the enemy. But if you're losing, it's really hard to come back with that hero.
Okay. And then we have another response from @SnugglyHugs. That's a good Twitter name.
SnugglyHugs.
SnugglyHugs. And it is, so far, the best change in Season 3 is giving supports more options and money to work with, especially with wards. And I really have to agree with that one because you have the Sightstone available, so you have pretty much 2 or 3 free wards, and you can start building actual items then depending on the GP10, right?
Yeah, now you see, instead of the GP10s, now you see some supports roasting the War item or Zurelias or the Aegis. Not all the supports go for the same items. That's something cool.
And that's something, if we had N-rated in here, he would definitely be talking about it. I remember obviously seeing the main thing when Season 3 came about was all support players were saying so happy about the fact that these changes had come about. We have a couple more responses, if you can see them on your screen. It is 902G. Nice name. Not quite so easy to read. It is Leandri's Torment is a fantastic item that really lets AP carries shine in new ways. Would you agree with that one? I mean, Teemo players out there love it.
Yeah, it does for sure. I like the item. It's percentage damage, so it's perfect against Warmog. It's what you need now.
Yeah.
It gives you the magic pen that now is even better with Void Staff, since it's applied differently. So I think, yeah, it's a good item.
Well, what about combining that with Rylai's? I mean, because you get more damage off it at the moment if you build that, you get the slow or some sort of CC with it. And then I believe in the latest patch, they fixed it so the AoE damage actually converts to the static single target damage instead, because you used to get less damage over time if you had an AoE spell versus a single target.
Yeah, I didn't even know that for sure. I never made the math. I just made the item and I realized it's cool. So.
Take your word for it, Jason. These the theory crafters out there, they're happy with it. We have a couple of responses up on your screen, and you can see it is from Erinka S327. Cool name, bro. Probably a lot of new items, especially the changes to help supports. And it's the supports we've already talked about here. The fact that they have managed to get a lot of new ways of playing. And it's interesting, is there really any new supports out there that you think are viable? I mean, obviously Zyra really came into her own in this one, in Season 3.
Yeah, Zyra, for example. And I think there's a lot of heroes you could play as support. Not exactly support, but like killer lanes. It have been in the past, like the Sion Pantheon and stuff like that. You can still play some weird lanes bottom. Like, if you swap lane, for example, and you put 2 killers, 2 assassins on top against one, and you kill him once, you're going to snowball that lane really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, is that sort of something you may see come out? It's desperately when, I'm thinking more towards the end of the season when teams start to get desperate, they're going to bring out some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, I think so. It's just about people practicing it and seeing it works out. When it works once, they're going to be like, this might work out. We could even try it against a good team. And maybe they won't see it coming, and we can get them.
A bit like Heimerdinger jungle, turning with the red, stealing everybody, piling up mid.
Already.
Yeah, we saw it in the Korean team. It was GSG, that got picked up by MVP in the end there. So we have one more final response from you guys. It was from Vegard Sorensen. Vegard Sorensen, I guess it is. Best thing in Season 3 is definitely Runan's Hurricane. Now that's an interesting one. We don't actually see a great deal of Runan's Hurricane in competitive play.
Oh, because we don't see a lot of Teemos, and that item is perfect for Teemo.
And why don't we see a lot of Teemos? You were one of the people that actually did used to run Teemo in the mid now and again.
I play it sometimes. He's a good hero, but he's really squeezy. That's the only problem he has. If they catch you once, let's say they have a Lux, for example, and he catch you one binding, you're dead. They have a Zen, he down you, you're dead. They have anything that can catch you, and you're dead. That's the problem. You don't have any mistake. You cannot make any mistake with it. If you're out of position one, you're dead and you lose.
Yeah, and you don't have any escapes. If your flash is down, that's it.
Yeah, if your flash is down, you cannot even go hit or you'll die.
Well, and you're a global taunt too.
Yeah, I mean everybody wants to kill Teemo.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're like the tank, but you're supposed to damage. So.
And he's actually got a pretty short range, so even just to get in and get that spit on someone,
it can cost your life.
It can cost your life. Yeah, but those mushrooms, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's what you do. Just put mushroom in front and spill at them and then run.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to see maybe other than the Warmogs change in Season 3?
No, I think it's fine. Maybe it's something about the wards, limit the wards or something, so there is less vision in the map, so there is more aggression with the ganks. I think something like that would be good.
To go with, say, maybe shorten the timer, maybe even?
Yeah, some timer, like you cannot buy some wards at more than X amount of wards at the beginning, something like that. But that's my personal opinion.
Just to counter, obviously,
I don't even know if that would be good or bad, but I just want to see more ganks, more fights, more kills early.
Well, yeah. Oh, sorry, but on top of that as well, I mean, don't you think supports kind of snowball a little bit with the wards? Because if you get, one kill, if support picks up one kill early on, they get an early sight stone, they can keep those wards down, so you can't get the gank that you want to see.
Let's say you get an early kill, early levels, and then the support get the item. You're just gonna be with the item rewarding, and you're gonna have perma 3 wards at least. So that's really annoying for a jungler to gank or for the mid to roam.
Yeah, and that's why we see some junglers like Laudamonis using interesting routes in ways to get into those ganks.
Yeah, Hercubot with the Jarvan over the wall in Dragon Pit just to get behind him without being seen.
Exactly what Laudamonis does. Exactly right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can, of course, tweet us at LOL Esports. It is hashtag LCS if you want to get in on the actions. Thank you very much for sending those questions into us and those responses. So we're going to pass over to Joe and Quickshot. We're going to get this final game underway. It is going to be the Copenhagen Wolves versus Giants.
Thank you very much, Demon. Indeed, Copenhagen Wolves versus Giants. You've just seen Copenhagen Wolves in action against Gambit Gaming. They had such a great start, Quickshot. They were looking so very good until it got to that part of the game where team play is number one. And of course, with their whole situation here, not having the Tess in there, not having Bjergsen in there even before that. Obviously, Forellenlord playing AP for them now. Kautard gone down into that AD carry role. It was just too much for them in the end against a team like Gambit.
Yeah, exactly. There was the laning phases and, some amazing ganks from Svenskeren that actually set them up for that early lead and all that initial pressure. And unfortunately, as soon as they started, grouping up and becoming 5 versus 5 engagements, they made a couple of questionable calls. The top lane inhibitor dive is one that really yells out for me. If they had backed away, if they'd not given up those 2 extra kills, what could have transpired? What could have happened? But a very good showing nonetheless. Svenskeren in particular was extremely impressive with his Vi ganks. Missed 1 or 2 very early, but following that, the dive with Assault and Battery and having Godbro Shin coming, on top of the Stand United, it was just such a great combination, and I wonder if they're going to try pull it out again this matchup.
And that's one thing that's really interesting, because I think Gambit is an example of a team where you can fall off and where those kind of things will more easily happen. I think against a team like Giants, if they got into that similar scenario again, I think that they could manage to pull that one out. But again, it depends on the game. They could have won that yesterday against Gambit and tomorrow, but today it just wasn't quite their team. So let's have a look then at these two teams and how they're going to be facing off. For Giants, we have Samux, Extermin, Jimbones, Babetta, and Morden.
And of course, for the Copenhagen Wolves, it is Godbro, Kautard, Forellenlord taking up the mid lane, Deficio and Svenskeren. Kautard, of course, going down to the bottom lane. If you have just joined us, unfortunately, Tez was mugged and assaulted last night, so he's stepping out today. Should be back next week. And you know what? Forellenlord played well. His Diana was very strong. Had some very good engagements, managed to get onto the carries, and held it mid lane very well against Alexish.
So the pick and ban phase for me is going to be really interesting again, because obviously Giants are the team that have had that AD Kennen in there that's been so successful for Jimbones. Let's take a quick look here, actually more directly at Giants, obviously, and have a look more in depth at their lineup this time. And I was just talking about him there, Jimbones. That AD Kennen was banned out against him earlier on today, but he's proved time and time again that if he can play him, he will play him, and he's been pretty devastating with him so far.
Yeah, he has been, and he was very devastating with at the qualifiers. He did play a Cogmore earlier as well against Evil Geniuses. Never really got the time to shine because, unfortunately, Giants were playing a little defensive. We're playing a little hesitant or scared, if I can go that far. And we'll see what he's going to whip out, what he's going to play this time around. And, of course, having, coming up against Forellenlord, the bans now become very difficult to pick. What do we do? How do we ban out? Do we ban out Caitlyn and Graves against Kautard? Do they know that? Do we ban out against Forellenlord? It's difficult questions that the Giants will will have to answer.
Do you ban out against the likes of Svenskeren in the jungle? Because he has been very, very good. Let's take a look then at the Copenhagen Wolves a little bit more in detail here. And then we have Kautard, who we picked him out here because he is obviously, he's been playing that mid lane for them. Today is the AD carry though, and he really did put in a good performance as Graves in that last game. Yes, okay, they weren't able to win it, but it was actually an encouraging performance out of Kautard there on the AD carry. But as I said in that last game, they told me before that Caitlyn Graves pretty much all that he's really comfortable with in that bottom lane. And as you said, they may end up trying to really put that pressure on there, because that was the weak link. We saw that Svenskeren had to spend a lot of time down in that bottom lane, and this is at the point where Godbro as Shen was so far behind in CS that he was probably crying out for those ganks, for that help in the top lane, and they just couldn't afford to give them because they had to really, help them out in that bottom lane. And as I'm talking about Godbro, let's take a look at those two top lane players here that are surely going to be instrumental. Samux, of course, very, very experienced player, has put in some good performances so far, playing Elise, Wukong and Olaf up until now. Actually, Olaf is the one that they managed to get that victory with when they took down, in surprising fashion, Gambit Gaming.
Yeah, exactly. He was such a powerful Olaf. He's shown diversity in his champion pool, and we're going to see what he decides to pull out this particular matchup as well. Who is he going to play against Godbro? And Godbro, of course, has played Shen, Elise, and Nidalee as well. So both of these players having, used Elise up in that top lane. I have to give a lot of credit to Godbro's Shen in that previous game. He fell so far behind and was really, really able to pull himself back into it. Off the ganks, off of the assists that he garnered up. I think it was 108 up until the 25-30 minute mark, and it doesn't get better than that for us, that split-pushing Shen top laner.
Well, we're going to get into Champion Select here soon, but first of all, we're going to go and have a look what the teams had to say earlier on when we sat down for a chat.
Pues hemos jugado contra ellos ya varias veces y casi siempre nos han dado mucha guerra, nos han ganado la mayoría de las veces. Yo creo que son un rival bastante duro y aunque me falta el medio, que está un poco el tema de Hersen, no sabemos cuándo volverá, pero que el equipo es muy completo y tiene muy buen nivel en todas las líneas.
And the ever-joking Copenhagen Wolves, they're kicking each other in the last moments of the interview. But as we heard from Giants, Wolves are a good team. They're not an easy team to take down. Okay, yes, this situation, which I feel like I'm harping on about, but it really is that important of a thing when we have to try and analyze how this game's going to go down. Giants, as we said, they've had that upset win against a team with the caliber, certainly in the form of Gambit Gaming. Other games not quite gone so well for them. Today, for example, they were almost just swept aside. And that's not a good sign for them today, but maybe this is the one that gives them their second victory.
Well, the thing that I'm thinking about the Giants' performances previously is they went into the matchup against Fnatic, they had an advantage, and then, Fnatic bounced back and picked up a win. They came back a week later, or a couple days later, played some more games, and they completely reworked their strategy, specifically against Gambit. They got that early advantage, they converted it to a mid-game advantage, actually picked up a win. So between their previous game earlier today, where Evil Geniuses really put a stomping on them, they've had a bit of time to step back, think about it, look at what they did wrong and say, okay, well, look, we didn't make any plays. We just let Evil Geniuses make things happen. And I think they're going to be aware of what they need to change in this matchup. And that bottom lane, if they get a Zyra, although I see Kennen has been banned out, if they're going to go for that aggressive combo, it's going to make Deficio and Kautard's life a little bit difficult again.
So we're speculating on the Giants bans here, and they've kind of aimed more towards Svenskeren in this one. Vi, we saw it in the last game. Xin Zhao, we've seen him on it before. And that Diana taken away from Forellenlord on the other side. Kennen, we expected it against Jimbones. Wukong, we mentioned Samux has played it well in the top lane. And Rise taken away from Extermin. That left the Elise open, though, which, as we mentioned before, Samux has already played so far this season.
Exactly, so we're going to see this Elise in play. We'll see which lane it's going to go into. We've seen Elise in the jungle as well, I believe, from the NA LCS, and we'll see how Giants decide to play the champion. If they're going to give it into the hands of Samux. And, Zyra is available for selection as well. We have seen Babetta playing Zyra a number of times, as well as Sona, which it looks like Deficio may be wanting to play. But Exter's played Zyra in the mid lane as well. I stand to be corrected on this, but I think if Rise was banned out at the Warsaw qualifiers, I believe he fell back to the Zyra. I think that was the last time we've seen him playing it. So, again, going for that team fight composition, and if I remember correctly, I think Samux played Katarina in that matchup. But, they go for those team fight comps. They go for the heavy CC. But look at this from the Wolves. Kha'Zix and Kayle locked in. That's a very scary, aggressive champion lineup.
Yeah, that's the funny thing with these bans. Because they're more targeted, it's left those more overall powerful champions in there. The likes of, the first 3 picks, at least Kha'Zix. Shen is obviously still open there. Kayle was already picked up here for Wolves. What are Giants going to go in for next? Will they secure that bottom lane and leave, the more, in my opinion, important picks, that middle lane in particular, until their last round?
They're probably going to think about that, trying to at least not reveal their cards too early on. Because they're coming up against Pharrell Lord, he's going to have the ability to sit back and think and say, all right, look, let's just try to do a counter pick lane. Let's try and pick a lane that I can do well, maybe get those picks with, get those kills with. Diana has been banned out, but Ari is still available. Twisted Fate is still available if they want to go that route. And I think those might be some very good picks because they have the ability to single out targets, single out champions for kills. And if Extra locks us in, taking it away. So talking about the champions, and it looks as though Giants are happily going to pick up that TF4 Extra in the mid lane.
Look at Pharrell Lord's disappointed. I don't get to play Twisted Fate face. Yeah, obviously, Extermin is a brilliant Twisted Fate player. Pharrell Lord, he's been having Twisted Fate banned out on him on so many occasions, so I suppose he's not used to really playing it. Whether he wanted to actually pull it out in this one is another thing. And that's the great thing about facing a champion that you're so comfortable on yourself.
You know what to do.
You know what's a thorn in your side when you actually go up against it, and then you can pick accordingly.
Exactly. You have the ability to sit and go, look, these are the weaknesses of Twisted Fate as a champion. We've seen it, I think, early in the day or yesterday where Wicked had to face off as Renekton against an Aurelia. And I was like, well, I know everything about this champion. I know what to do. I know how to play. So this is definitely going to play into Pharrell Lord's hands in terms of how they want to pick it out. And we're going to see Cowtard hovering over the Caitlyn right now. I think you're 100% picks accuracy for this one.
Well, if you can only play 2 champions, I could just flip a coin and call one of them. Anyway, Caitlyn was banned in that last game as well, so it was kind of easy.
And this is going to be the 3rd time that we have seen Deficio on Lulu. So again, we're just looking at this composition. It reminds me a lot of the Evil Geniuses picks where they've got the wild growth, the intervention onto, they had a Kali in their top lane, being played by Wicked. The amount of room for error that those abilities give you. If somebody overcommits and they are behind enemy lines a little bit longer, any one of those spells can save you and get you out of it, or alternatively can win you a team fight.
Yeah, and that was what may be important. The lane phase was actually really hard for them at that bottom. We mentioned it before, Svenska, and I spent so much time there. Did even out a little bit towards, the end of that laning phase before the towers went down. It was obviously the end of the game, which really cost them there. Ash is going to be locked in this time for Jimbones, which was actually his fallback champion in the qualifiers when Ken was banned out. And the Volibear here, 2 games in a row, Volibear. You would not have guessed we'd be saying that before we started here in the LCS.
Not at all. That's quite a surprising pick from Giants, but it also makes perfect sense. If you think about Kayle, Kha'Zix, they want to get in there. They want to get into the fight, pick a battle, and they're going to try and single out a target. So what the Giants are going to be planning to do here is waiting for that Kha'Zix leap, waiting for the Zoidberg to go throwing in there, toss them backwards further, and try to pick that one up. But, it's a really, really smart pick. I like it. I also think what's very nice about it, if anybody does pick an engagement, land the gold card, throw them backwards, land, Ash Arrow possibly as well, completely pick them up, and then continue the battle with the crescendo onto the rest of the team. So I like the pickup. It is very, very good. And there's a lot of sort of single target stuns, Cocoon, gold card, and of course the Ash Arrow before the AoE crescendo. So once again, CC heavy, but maybe less AoE CC and now it's single targets.
And we have that Orianna in there. We know that Pharrell Lord is a very competent Orianna player. You're kind of forced to pick that teleport in there, to counter that Twisted Fate, which means you're almost a summoner spell behind there. He's going to have the Ignite on you, Extermin in that middle lane, and if he goes aggressive, it can be a bit nasty from that side of things. But thinking about the 2 teams that we've got, the setups that they've got, who do you fancy most from this?
It's so difficult to call. There's so many strengths and weaknesses for both of these teams. And you mentioned the teleport spell. I actually want to remind our analyst desk to get Pekka's opinion on this, because it was brought up very early in the day where there was a comment, I think it was Snoopy or Froggen was saying that if you pick teleport, you're expecting to lose your lane along those lines. And I'd love to know what the thinking is behind that, because a champion like Orianna, not only does it counter the Destiny, but has the ability to set up very powerful ganks. get into a lane with Elise after she's landed a cocoon, get your full combo down, and just really shred people apart. And it's a fairly squishy team. I mean, Twisted Fate, Sona, Ashe, Elise, until they've built some tanky, they will get blown up very, very quickly.
Well, we're going to get into this one, of course. It is Wolves, who are 0 for 4 right now. Looking maybe to, it'll be a relief, I think, if they manage to win this game and not go 0 for 5 after 2 weeks' worth of play. They've had a lot of fixtures in these first 2 weeks. They're up against the Giants, who themselves only have that single win to the name. It was a win against Gambit Gaming of all the teams that they could have picked that one up against. We are going to have a quick pause in this one, though, which the admins, of course, will be on top on. We'll try and give you any information about that as we get going. Usually, though, it's just something to do with key bindings, or in this case, actually sound. Probably just not plugged his headphones in hard enough.
We'll get that headset issue resolved very, very quickly and get back into this matchup. And it's going to be very, very exciting to see how these lanes match up, because as soon as Twisted Fate hits 6, I keep hearing memories of yourself saying, you know what, at level 6, Twisted Fate is either hit or miss. He either gets the gank and starts to snowball very, very hard, or he falls behind, and it's a very lackluster, use of those ultimates. They end up just becoming vision and split pushing powers more than really setting up kills and ganks. Froggen has played Twisted Fate exceptionally well. I'm also remembering how Alexich played Twisted Fate in some of the earlier matchups as well. Going in behind the team and just, stunning somebody, forcing them to put pressure on him, and then it just bought Wicked all the time in the world to carry on, pushing and picking fights. So we'll see how Exeter decides to play it. We know he uses his teleport ganks well, so Destiny's not too different from what he's used to.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about Twisted Fate, which you kind of a little bit more limited to in terms of teleport, but with Twisted Fate, obviously, you can go into literally anywhere as long as you're in range. And you can say, if the AD carries Coward at the back, which a Caitlyn definitely will be, got that extra range over everyone going to be hiding at the back. I said cowering, Cowtown. I actually didn't even mean to do that one. But
I started giggling as soon as you said.
Turned out well in the end. But yeah, you can really get yourself right in there behind them, and you can separate Caitlyn from that, being able to do that damage before the rest of the team can actually do much about it as well. So 2 really interesting setups here for 2 games. I actually think that this is going to be an amazing game, just from what we've seen so far. I think these 2 teams are really on par in terms of what they can produce up to now. I mean, Giants managed to beat Gambit. Wolves, with this lineup here that they've put together literally today, that's how that's all gone down. They pushed them very, very far in that game. They almost, they could smell the victory almost at the end, I think.
So close, and unfortunately just couldn't convert it. So we'll see if they can this time around. The Giants, they have the ability to pick up wins, and they have the ability to pick up wins against the best in Europe. The question is, how are they going to play this? Because it was a lack of action that cost them the game against EG. They simply didn't really do anything. They didn't try and make plays happen. They played very, very defensive, and we heard Becker saying they just made too many mistakes. So we'll see how they decide to play this particular game, because they have champions that can make plays happen. Ashe, Crystal, Arrow, Destiny from Twisted Fate. You combo that with, the bear rolling in and throwing you back with the rolling thunder, and all of a sudden you have a dead member of the Copenhagen Wolves.
We see that actually the sound issue is going to be fixed with Extermin. That's always a good sign. Admin's working hard there to make sure that all gets done, and we are going to get back into the game. So level 1, let's talk a little bit about this quick shot. Can we expect any action to come down? I think the fact that these teams have 1 win between them so far might mean that we're in for a bit of a passive game as well.
I think that's a very accurate statement. Until these teams have their ultimates, I don't expect to see too much happening. Godbro's really going to want to get those evolved Void Spikes, maybe even wait a little bit longer. He's got a lot of early game damage, but so does Samix's Elise. Going to be able to put a lot of percentage HP damage down. So the top lane is going to be the one that we need to keep an eye on. But I think until you've got that Ashe Arrow and the Twisted Fate Destiny, I don't expect the Giants to be overly aggressive. They are proving me wrong by going up and putting a very early ward in the Wraith camp, but they're not really looking for anything other than vision and for information to keep an eye on Svenskeren and Kale when he's going for that red buff and when to expect him in the lanes.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot actually of that push from Evil Geniuses in particular. They've gone more pink ward heavy on that one in the past, either when they've seen a ward go down in the river early on, or even that far up as we've just seen the ward come down from Giants. This time wasn't a pink ward. No pink wards actually on the field at this early stage of things. So as we probably expected after they had that little bit of a scouting mission, a little bit more passive. Actually, Wraiths were done by Ash and Sona. They're going to do the golems there as well, are they? No, they're not. They're actually going to pass by, I guess, not wanting to lose too much health before they actually get into their lane. But that gives them a nice little boost to kick off.
Yes, if they manage to combo that, early advantage of the volley and possibly the crystal arrows, plus some of the poke that Babette is going to be able to put down with her passive, the power chord, it's a pretty squishy Caitlyn. Deficio's shield that help picks is not very, very high or very powerful at these low ranks, so they may play quite aggressive. The last time Jim Bones played Ashe, Babette was playing Nunu, so that was the bot lane AD support combo, but obviously with the CC heavy comps they've been running, they decided to swap it out to Sona instead.
Yeah, we should probably mention as well, since Nunu, I find Kautar's taking a lot of damage here, gets slowed down, but Giant's not going to push it out. But back to my point anyway about Nunu, that obviously he did have that bit of a hit in here. His Blood Boil gives him less attack speed plus less movement speed as well at the start. So that's, I think, why we've seen this Nunu being yet less utilized throughout these last 2 days.
Just a little bit less of an attractive pick, and that lower the bottom lane engagement as Kautar was dropped so low. Jim Bones just hit level 2. He got the volley, carried on chasing a little bit more. If Babette had maybe got a power cord off, it could have potentially set them up for a kill. In this middle lane, both of our champions, for Exter and for Ellenlord, running a little bit low on mana. Exter's going to be able to pop himself back up relatively quickly, but they've been very aggressive against one another, putting a lot of damage down and trading very, very early on, not waiting to pick these fights.
And look at this, Svenskeren is in the bush. We saw him doing a lot of work in the bottom lane in that last game. Deficio actually is going to get in there. Doesn't have a pink ward on him, although Caitlyn does ironically have that pink ward right now in her arsenal. So I'd expect that to go down if they want to push Svenskeren through. The question is, will they really think about that one? They've put a normal ward down on their own, as Nigobro does take a bit of damage in that top lane. Will just jump himself back to safety. Extermin also in the middle lane took some damage, but Svenskeren is still waiting here in the bush, and they're going to go for it.
We'll see if they can get the slow down, but unfortunately not. Turn the attention to Jim Bones. The 90 caliber net throws Kautar forwards. Jim Bones forced to use barrier. One more attack may have been enough, but he does flash to safety. Flash, barrier blown, as well as the flash for Babette. A good gank overall. The next time they go aggressive, they might be able to pick up a kill.
Yeah, and from Wolf's side, look at those summoner spells, all intact. No flash, cleanse, or exhaust used from the support or the AD carry. In fact, even Svenskeren, as I said, didn't use that smite either. So that's great news from Wolves right off the get-go.
Ferelnord also forced Exter to back in that middle lane. They were trading back and forth the entire time. And, it hasn't cost Exter any farm just yet, but he was forced out of that lane. He was very, very low on HP. You can see he's already picked up a null magic mantle and a couple extra pots. So Ferelnord is already stomping some authority. Ferelnord has gone back to pick up his Tear of the Goddess as well. And Exter back to 50% HP. He's been in lane 10-15 seconds. Ferelnord's doing a great job of setting the tone of this mid lane.
Yeah, Ferelnord just that little bit behind on CS, but that will be fixed here with these three, if you can actually get them in the end. Those three caster minions that were coming in there as well. More wards being put down in this bottom lane. Jim Bones, despite that gank coming out earlier on, is ahead of Kautar as well in this bottom lane. We know, that Kennen, Jim Bones' real go-to champion, but his Ashe has also proved to be very, very strong in the previous games that we've seen it as well. Let's have a look at this top lane, because Morden is actually just working his way in towards the back. Nigot, bro, we're actually going to see the teleport in bottom.
We'll see. Does he have the ultimate? Not just yet. Lands the attack and the dissonance. Exhaust comes down onto Ferelnord, and they immediately start backing off. Ferelnord used that teleport. I'm trying to look at what level he is. He's about, a couple hundred XP away from level 6. If that shockwave was there, it definitely could have secured them first blood. But a little bit too antsy. The ants in the pants just letting him go too quickly as Godbro gets caught.
Yeah, getting flipped over there by Morden. Are they going to go in? Repel comes down right on top of Godbro. Well, look at that. You got Morden going very, very low, but the first blood is picked up by Samuks. Morden did survive it as well. It was real touch and go stuff, but the bear managing to have enough HP, and look how much he's regen there already, by the way. And that's just the beauty of him getting in under the tower so early on. First blood Giants.
6 seconds of regen from his passive manages to save him from those ticks of ignite and from the damage under the turret, and Elise getting first blood is never a good sign. She's a pretty heavy snowball champion. Gombe picked up a Doran's ring as well as that Ruby Crystal to help survive some of the damage that Godbro's Kha'Zix is going to be putting down. But if they can, keep landing those ganks, keep getting some kills, and snowball Samex's Elise, they're going to be very, very happy with that.
So now Pharrell Lord back into this middle lane. Going to be working his way back up with the CS. And that's what kind of surprised me, because they were pushed up already in that bottom lane. If he'd have just waited for that next wave of creeps, he probably needed 3 of them at most to actually hit level 6 and get down there. That was a kill, to be honest, for Wolves coming out. But that's all ifs and buts. Extermin here going to get himself his blue buff. He just waits for the wild cards there to have enough damage. That's going to be helping him out. Pharrell Lord on the other side of the map will also be helped out by Svenskeren to pick up hits.
And of course, that's a situation of having a completely new bottom lane. Not only do you have Kautard, who was middle playing AD, Pharrell Lord, who wasn't even on the team, playing middle, and Diffusio there, the 3 of them tried to set up that gank, and they weren't exactly in the same gear at the same time. So a little bit of a calling or a little bit of a miscommunication in terms of timing and when to go cost them that first blood. But they're not too far behind in gold right now. We see that Extra's Twisted Fate gone for the Mercury Treads first, going to get that movement speed as well as the damage reduction from, obviously, all of the magic burst that Pharrell Lord's putting down. And he's picked up that KG's lucky pick. So we've seen earlier in the day when Froggen was running Twisted Fate, he picked up the KGs but didn't finish the Twin Shadows until much, much, much later in the game. We'll see how Extra decides to play it, because the option is available to him.
Yep, and right now between the 2 AD carries in terms of items, Vamp Scepter finished for Ash, along with the dagger to upgrade his boots, and a single Doran's Blade on the other side. Longsword, double Doran's Blade for Caitlyn. Still has that pink ward available to throw down to maybe allow Svenskeren to come through that lane once again. We can see on the other side that there are plenty of wards down, actually, from the Wolves side as well on that bottom side. When I say the wards, they're obviously traps. Good job, Joe.
A huge number of those little cupcake traps laid around the place just to limit the number of entrances that Svenskeren has to move in there. But what I'd like to see from the Wolves right now is a little bit more wards, especially in that middle lane. You can see around the river area, they've got that single sight ward just sitting by the entrance towards their blue golem, just so that if Extra does start moving towards the bottom lane, as he's doing now, you see if that vision is going to be gained. He was hinting towards a gank in the top lane, but then just decided to put that ward in the Wraith camp, and that's exactly what I was expecting from Pharrell. Get the vision in the bushes, make sure you know when Twisted Fate leaves the lane, that even if the calling isn't there, like calling SS or telling your teammates, they'll be able to see it. They'll see that little head popping up on the minimap, and it looks like Morden would like some more blood.
And Godbro obviously had a horrible time of it in that last game. Is going to be in trouble here because Twisted Fate is coming up as well. This is a 3-man gank on towards Kha'Zix. He is not getting out of this one. Morden again tanking up that tower. It's going to take one last hit, but again, the passive saving him.
29, 29, 29, 29. So much HP being regen there. He just tanks the turret, manages to pick up the kill with his ultimate there, or it wasn't even the ultimate, it was just a ferocious bite. Man takes a nom out of Godbro, and he's now 0-2. Even with 2 deaths to his name, he's keeping up on CS. So he's doing a very, very good job of keeping himself in farm-wise. He just needs to try maybe get a little bit more ganks, a little bit more assistance from Svenskeren to try and take some control back in that top lane.
Oh, and look at Pharrell Lord just showing his mastery here of that Orianna. As I say, that Extermin actually gets a stun card on him. Wild cards hitting as well. It was actually Pharrell Lord that was trying to steal the Wraiths away from Extermin. And that's one point that a lot of these mid lane players will make, that it's really worth it if you have the opportunity to take away those Wraiths as much as possible.
Yeah, the experience and the goal that it gives you and also denies the enemy team is just, insurmountable. You cannot put a number on how important that is. At the moment, though, Giants, they're doing well. They're out-farming most of the lanes. They've got the kill advantage, and they've got a noticeable gold lead. The ganks have been focused entirely on Godbro up in the top lane. They are more afraid of Kha'Zix than they are of anybody else. But for Ren Lord's Orianna, if they get into these team fight situations, if they start to group up, the shockwave, the dissonance, it is very, very powerful, and it could allow them to win team fights, especially with intervention and wild growth, helping Godbro out once they get to these, engagements and he starts diving in there.
Yeah, I think Godbro is going to be the key man in that one in terms of, he's going to have the ball on him. Yeah, technically Forellenlord has to press the right buttons at the right time to help out as well, but it's Godbro that has to find the positioning to be able to jump towards the right place in that team fight for everything to really collapse in. As you said, intervention really will help him out in that, not allow him to not take any damage on his way in for that one, or to survive even longer, as the case may be. And in the whole time, then you've got, as soon as he does land, that wild growth to give them the big knock-up as well.
The Giants are going to be trying to focus on picking a target out, though. If you look at all of their abilities, the Cocoon, the Ash Arrow, the Gold Card, with the exception of the Crescendo from Babetta, and even, Volibear's a Rolling Thunder, where he tosses a single target backwards, they really just want to land an Ash Arrow onto somebody. If that stun starts to wear off, land a Gold Card or even a Cocoon and then chase. But it looks like Morden's coming in. The Ash Arrow completely whiffs.
Yeah, it goes straight through the middle of them. Kautar, though, may get caught out. He's being slowed up. There's a Crescendo. Wild Growth comes in. Will it be enough to save him? Yes, it will. And look at this. Twisted Fate going to join the party. Great shockwave coming out of Forellenlord. Jim Bones goes down. Extermin is fairly low. Can they finish him off, though? He flashes away from the ball. Morden is already on the safety of the tower, and what a great turnaround from Wolves.
Such awesome positioning there from Forellenlord. He had the ball, I think, even on his own head, pulled everybody towards him. There was two members of the Giants on top of him. It allowed them to secure a kill, and this is going to be the first turret of the game for the Copenhagen Wolves. It'll even them up in terms of gold, and as soon as that Destiny was used, teleport came out from Copenhagen Wolves. Do they have enough to take Dragon? Well, Godbro's in trouble.
Godbro is in a little bit of trouble at the top. Samux here going to be looking to land a Cocoon onto him. Will land it? Will he keep going in the pressure? Yes, he will. Samux taking good damage there, though. And actually, in the end, they switch positions as the repel comes in and Godbro flashes to the other side. Dragon is being started as well.
Morden gets turned into a little munchkin as the Copenhagen Wolves finish off the Dragon. He starts to crawl away. Couldn't get in there. Couldn't land the smite. And the Copenhagen Wolves even up that gold difference. Godbro did well to survive that top lane. He only had the Tear of the Goddess in that top lane to survive against the Haunting guys and the Doran's ring of Samux. But nevertheless, only 10 CS behind, 2 deaths down, and the Giants are now turning on the pressure in this mid lane.
Yeah, they need to be careful, though. Here, Morden down to half HP with Orianna coming back in there with that blue buff. That's a lot of damage that can come out really quickly, but in the end, Giants say, well, we've done the damage that we could from the situation that we had. We're happy with that. We're going to back away. That Twin Shadow's done now, so if you compare that over to Forellenlord, obviously, to Froggen from earlier when he played Twisted Fate, as you said, that was a much later thing for him on that, but a kind of rush in there for Exeter, so he really wants to be involved in these lanes. Obviously going to use that stun card to really lock down, but those Twin Shadows, the Ghost coming out to give the slow as well, is going to be a real vital thing. Yeah,
and again, it just shows you the composition. They really want to pick somebody out, get the Ghost onto somebody, land the rest of the single target stunts, blow them up. When the team fight breaks out, if the Copenhagen Wolves jump in, use their Crescendo almost defensively, really. I mean, you could have some flash Crescendos, but it really just looks like they want to single somebody out, get them down, and then turn the rest of the attention further. Over on the Wolves side, you've got a massive AoE composition here. In terms of the combat, you want to get Orianna pulling 2 or 3 together. You then want to get Godbro hitting them with the Void Spikes, landing on them with that leap of his and getting the Wild Growth, knocking multiple targets up in the air. And then just allow Svenskeren as much time as possible to get those Righteous Fury swings out. Just, splash, splash, splash. That's really what they want to be doing. It does mean, though, that if the Giants split well enough in a team fight, it could mitigate a lot of that AoE damage, and it'll mean the Wolves need to take a lot longer in getting them down. And the Destiny is coming in this bottom lane.
Let's see what they can do. The Ash Arrow is going to land onto Kautar. Very early Wild Growth. It's not going to be enough to save Kautar, though, and Extermin will manage to pick that one up. Didn't even use Twin Shadow that time. Didn't even need it. He was saving it in case Caitlyn had got any further away. Wolves are going to look to counter here by having a middle turret.
The amount of crowd control that went down onto Kautar was just way too high. In the top lane, Samux has even out the turret, so that is 1-to-1 as Copenhagen Wolves take that mid lane turret. It should allow them to put some more pressure on the Dragon and, the enemy jungle of the Giants if they decide to start warding it up. But this game is extremely even right now. They are, each team is making the plays happen, but Giants being a little bit more aggressive with their, ganks and with trying to play the enemy champions.
Let's have a look a little bit down the items now. Well, we may have a lull in the action, maybe not. The Twin Shadows come out, Svenskeren actually having to use the ultimate on himself. There is the shockwave. That could be what they need here, and it will be a kill coming out. Kayle gets the shield, flash in from Samox. He will secure that kill there in the end, and that will bring us to 4-2. And just as I say, a lull in the action, all kicks off.
Yeah, being completely caught out. Svenskeren actually was trying to set up a gank there. He thought he was going to jump onto Twisted Fate. Forellenlord was sort of baiting Morden and Extra into that particular engagement, but they didn't know that Samox was coming from that top lane. They have no vision in that part of their jungle. They didn't know that the Spiderling lady was moving past their race. She just came in from behind after the gold quarters landed a cocoon of her own, and then carried on picking up the, landing enough damage to pick up the kill.
So now I think we are safer to talk a little bit more about the items. You see their Giants belts being picked up over 4 Giants. That one for Elise, the one for Volibear over on the other side, one with Kha'Zix. We actually saw yesterday Darian went in for the Trinity Force early as he could with Kha'Zix. This time around, Manamune finished along with that Giants belt. We got the Nash's Tooth already done for Kayle, Rod of Ages on the Orianna. AD carries similar kind of position that they're in, however the main difference being that BF sword for Ashe and just the pickaxe in there for Caitlyn. Got a second Doran's Blade from that though.
Does have that a little bit extra with that Doran's, and is sitting on 1,500 gold, so Kautar will be very close to picking up that BF sword and evening out the gold difference between these the two players. And I think once he starts to getting closer to that Infinity Edge, the Piltover Peacemakers are going to help so much, especially with this wave clear. Both teams have the ability to sit under their turret and just keep the minion waves at complete bay, and it's going to be up to each team to set up who picks the fights. Take a look at Svenskeren sneaking in from the Tribush, though. He does decide to back away. Not 100% confident picking that fight, and the two members of Giants just start to back away quite safely.
Wolves pinging that one like crazy there. They knew that they'd come up, and they knew that they were trying to set up that trap from the Spider and the Bear, hanging out together to make it count. And Dragon will be up in a minute. We'll see which team can react to that one quicker. Actually, they see the damage coming out of Jim Bones there, down in this bottom lane. Godbro trying to clear out desperately and force them away from that turret, but it's down to below half health. This could well be turret number 2 and the equalizer turret for Giants with this next wave or two.
I imagine that might be the thinking. They might decide to try push this. If Giants have the timer on that Dragon, they might try to coincide the two, push the tower down. You can see that Morden's Volibear is slowly starting to hint towards that Drake. It's up in 30 seconds, but it was the Wolves that picked up the previous Dragon, so they'll have the second timer. It doesn't really look like everybody's setting up for it. You can see Caitlyn and Lulu, they're moving to the top lane to try and defend that inner turret, and with Twisted Fate and Volibear so close to that Dragon, we'll see if anybody does decide to go for it.
Yeah, both junglers got that smite up and ready. Samox, though, is in that top lane. He's hiding in the bush currently. Not really got many minions there with him. And just the non-presence of Samox even may be enough for Wolves to say, well, we don't really know where that Elise is. Is he going to be coming down towards Dragon? We need to be careful about that one. But now they've spotted him in that top lane. I'd imagine that they start to go down there. And as I say, that Kha'Zix is heading straight towards top. Lulu and Kayle are both around there. Obviously, Caitlyn in the bottom lane. Orianna still in the middle. So it would be a 4-on-4 down in that lane.
If they decide to go for it, of course, Giants are going to continue pushing. Another Ashe arrow completely whiffs. Kautar's dropped so low. Jimbo's continue landing auto attacks. A little bit of a late cleanse there. Now it starts chanting the ace in the hole.
Yeah, they didn't flash in for the kill, and now Extermin taking a lot of damage. Jim Bones is going to be the first one to fall, and Wolves, they've carved a massive opening for Dragon now with that one. Giants obviously were pushing in for the gank, but you have to give credit over to Kautar. He's managed to survive that one, and his team turn it around.
Yeah, so true. Managed to stay alive long enough. Wild Growth was not even used by Deficio's Lulu, so that extra HP wasn't even needed in the background. You can see that Forellenlord has now just finished that Archangel Staff. He's going to have so much mana. Almost finished for the Seraph's Embrace, 730 out of the 750. But the Giants are going to take the map objective of the tower, and if you equate it in that sense, losing a kill but gaining the tower, I think they'll be relatively happy with that trade.
Yeah, you can see what that leaves them in terms of gold. They're almost 2,000 in the lead again. Neither team going for that Dragon. So there individually, we have Orianna 300 gold ahead. Oh, actually, it's more like 500 gold if I could count. Between the AD carries 6.6 to 6.3 in favor of Ashe. Top lane 7.1 to 5.8, and that's the problem that Godbro's really had. Obviously, in CS, he's not that far behind, but those 2 kills as they camped him out earlier on leaves him in a bit of a tricky position.
He doesn't have too much itemization either. You know, he's got that mana immune completed, working towards the Mirror Mana, sitting on a Giant Spell, got that Negatron Cloak, the Null Magic Mantle. So he's got little bits of everything. We do see them going very aggressive, though.
Yeah, we see the Shockwave land on Jimbones. What can they do pushing forward, though? Slow comes in onto Extermin, and they've managed to completely repel that attack. That's a nice move out of Giants.
Yeah, the Jimbones ultimate from Ash, the Crystal Arrow, was just really well-timed and well-placed. It not only stunned up the Copenhagen Wolves, it put quite a powerful slow on them, and they managed to just buy them the time that they need to get away. What it has done, though, is it's allowed Copenhagen Wolves to get into this Dragon, and they'll pick this one up for free, completely uncontested.
See Kale swinging that massive sword, and that will be the Dragon, as you said, going down. Second one in a row for Wolves. Not quite right on the timer as it spawned this time around, but they managed to pick it up, and that's what the important thing is at the end of the day. That brings them back to just 700 gold deficit. Where's this next move going to come in here? I mean, we've seen Lichbane now being finished off by Extermin. That's going to help his split pushing abilities really a huge amount, which we saw in that last game. Twisted Fate can be a real big pain in doing stuff like that.
It's really difficult to say because neither of these teams has really been super focused on pushing a particular lane. Samex has spent a lot of time up in this top lane. You know, he was hiding in that top bush as Godbro just walks past 2 Giants members. And, you know, they're trying this split push, and it's working relatively well. Samex has been farming, has been left unopposed for the most part, but there hasn't been a committed, focused effort from either team in pushing a particular lane or pushing a particular objective. There's been these little skirmishes where the bottom lane would pick a fight, and all of a sudden you'll have Teleport and Destiny coming, and top lane would have a gank, and all of a sudden you'd have Destiny coming in. But it isn't really showing their hands of how they want to play this game. I think Giants will be relatively happy to continue farming and just carry on stalling the game out, because when they want to pick a fight, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do so. Combo that Ash Arrow into a Cocoon, into a gold card. It's a lot easier for them to pick an engagement than it will be for the Copenhagen Wolves, who have to throw everything they have on Kha'Zix and let him just dive, you know, behind the enemy lines.
That was a nice move from Giants. Well, they had that pink ward down to spot. They saw Forellenlord actually backing away. He's now back, and they couldn't quite get the damage down on that tower. But in principle, they could have had that one away. Obviously, didn't have the minions there. They didn't want to tank it up too much in case Wolves decided, right, game on, we're going to dive straight on top of you. But as you said, bit more of a passive time. You can expect it as well. When you think about the position of these two teams in that league, 0 for 4 Wolves. They don't want to lose 5 games in a row. That's in any sport a devastating start to any league campaign. They don't want that here today, even though the circumstances pretty much dictate that should on paper happen to them here today. They showed against Gambit that it definitely doesn't have to be that way in the end.
Yeah, and they've got the ability to do so. They've got the ability to win. They can pull it out. I mean, they did so well in the early stages of their matchup against Gambit Gaming. They just need to find the right moment to do so. I noticed a few minutes ago that Forellenlord finished the home guard on his boots, so he does have that teleport. He has the ability to come flying out of absolutely nowhere. And if you combo that with the amount of damage he can put down, that might be their opening play. That might be how they decide to get in there. But take a look at Exter on the minimap. He's moving closer and closer to Forellenlord, and it does look like the rest of the Giants members are coming back as well.
Exter just about missing his chance in there. And not sure if he'd really want to take that fight heads up against the Orianna as well. Obviously, very tankers. We are going to see the Ash Arrow landing in there, but look at Forellenlord steaming through here onto Samex. Actually, Samex will flash away there in the end. Forellenlord had the opportunity to lock him down with the shockwave, but decided against it.
Jimbones deserves mad credit there from the Giants members. They could see the teleport was coming in, and the Crystal Arrow was thrown into that bush. Again, stunning up the Copenhagen Wolves. A defensive Ash ultimate, but it does work. But look at the damage he's taken from this poke. He's got to be very careful if they decide to jump in on this engagement, because Forellenlord may be able to blow him up at 50% HP.
Yeah, if they want to take that chance, Shockwave is one of the best things to do. It's Twisted Fate. He's going to use his ultimate. He's going to come in to the south of this tower, though. which means they are going to have that vision for a couple of seconds, but Wolves in no immediate danger from the backside as the stun card does come down. There's a shockwave onto Samex, like we said. Good crescendo comes out of Babetta. Wild growth goes in onto Svenska, and no kills resulting from all those ultimate blown, but here comes Godbro. He dives once, he dives in twice, gets the intervention. Can they keep going on this one? They've managed to take the turret. Jim Bones went very, very low. They've taken 1 kill for nothing. They're going to be happy.
That was the fight that the Copenhagen Wolves needed right at the end there as the intervention was wearing off. Godbro just sidestepped the cocoon coming out of Elise. It was really nicely done, but a great reaction there from Exter. The command attack and distance came down, and as the shockwave was about to be casted, he flashed out of it. He put himself out of that danger zone, allowed him to stay alive a little bit longer. After Godbro decided to recommit to that engagement with the intervention, he did eventually go down. They lost the turret, and that was the play that Copenhagen Wolves needed to. And it was like we said, they were just going to throw everything at it, just put everything on the back of Godbro's Kha'Zix and allow him to try and nom people.
Just seen Warmogs for Kha'Zix being picked up as he went back, actually picking up the red pot as well to get back into the fight. Volibear got that Warmogs as well as a Negatron cloak. Obviously we do have the Crystal Scepter finish here for Elise as well. What else did we have picked up? Infinity Edge, Zeal, and the Crit Cloak actually for Ash. So Infinity Edge there. Phantom Dancer incoming. On the other side, kind of similar situation as well, almost as if Kautar's copying the build from the other side. He's got that Infinity Edge, got the Vamp Scepter in there, and he's also got the Zeal. A little bit behind though, no Crit Cloak just yet.
And you know what, you got to give full credit to Kautar here. He's been put into this AD position role and, has been playing mid all of the rest of the LCS matches. His positioning has actually been very, very good for the majority of his previous game and this one as well. He's never really been overextended. The few times he has been jumped on, as we see Svenskeren getting caught out, we're going to see Morden trying to come up from this lane, but Svenskeren takes quite a lot of damage from that Elise.
Yeah, quite a lot it was indeed, and the shield was even on him as well from Orianna, so some of that would have definitely been negated from that, as we are going to see Twisted Fate. He's going into middle here, trying to lock down Kautar.
And take a look at that, the cleanse comes out, immediately just starts running away. Finally the Twin Shadows comes out, but Kautar, he just waited. Gold card had landed, Crystal Arrow landed, and as you thought he's about to go down, he just cleansed and effectively walked away.
And that's the beauty of the cleanse.
Exactly. Really, really good use of cleanse. Those defensive summoner spells we're seeing more and more often on these AD carries, and especially against this team. The amount of stuns and snares and everything that they have available to them, it's a very, very powerful pickup. Giants look like they're going to pick up this dragon, as Wolves are looking to contest, but they're a little bit outnumbered if they pick this fight.
Yeah, this would be a 3-on-4, and as they do go in, we are going to see Giants take it down, and Wolves back straight away. Or are they? Because Svenskeren actually will get a couple of hits off there, but not really the amount that they would have wished. And that leaves us with still a very close gold count, 40.7 to 39.2. Let's see how Wolves are going to really react to this one. Actually looking like they're going to push down towards the jungle of Giants. The blue buff is available for the taking. I'd imagine that they push out this lane first, though.
Well, Exter is there on the bottom lane. He has Destiny available relatively soon. About 25% of the cooldown is available, so he's just going to be split pushing. He's got all the movement speed from that Lich Bane available to him, and just, shoving lanes down as only Twisted Fate can. He notices that there's a number of Copenhagen Wolves members still in that middle lane, so he's just going to take the time to deal all of this free damage to the tower. He's probably going to get this tower before he starts to back.
Well, Friendlord running out of base here with those home guard boots off, but as he said, not going to be quite fast enough. Thought he was going to go aggressive there, pop the speed boost onto himself. As we see, that blue buff is available for the taking here for Giants. Samox and Morden are both there. And support play coming around as well, but they're going to be happy if they're able to secure this blue buff away. For Elnod actually moving in on top of a ward. The blue buff was taken there by Giants, but again, they're forced to back away. Morden actually took that one in the end.
The Copenhagen Wolves are going to need to get more vision here. You can see Babetta's running around at the Oracle's Elixir, so he's busy clearing out as many wards as possible, but if you look at the minimap, there's just not a lot of vision for the Copenhagen Wolves. I flicked over to see what they could see during that blue buff invade, and they had no idea. They had no sight in the river, in the enemy side of the jungle, in their side of the jungle, and they were fairly lucky in that as soon as they face-checked the blue buff, the majority of the Giants players were pulling the blue away, towards the river. But if they were grouped up in the grass there, it could have been one of those face-check, lose-a-champion situations. So a little bit lucky there. Giants once again pulling a little bit ahead with this gold, 2,000 right now, but at this stage in the game, it's such a small number, it's, relatively insignificant. And it just comes down to these engagements. Whoever can pick the fight with the better circumstances seems to be winning. Giants have been making the plays in the early game. The Wolves have been making the plays in this mid game, and they've currently got a little bit more map control.
Yeah, I think that map control is going to be important in the long run as well for them. If they can't have vision of their own side of the map, they certainly can't expect to be able to dominate in the enemy side as well from that. You've got to be able to see what you're doing. And I expect that to come down here at some point, especially around that Baron area, which, people are starting to get up to level 17s. Not quite an 18 in there yet, but certainly you can see that Elise and Twisted Fate are both level 17. And they are at that stage of the game where they probably could get in there and take it away. If you've not got any vision, that can be a crucial mistake that can lose you a game.
Yeah, and take a look at this. Babetta may be caught out. The Asher comes up once again, defensive and so on point, but Godbros decided to pick his engagement. He's leaped forward. He's going to carry on fighting as Morden tosses him over his shoulder and says, no, you shall not pass. You will not get to Jimbones. Is in stealth, continues chasing, flashes forward onto Jimbones. Once again gets tossed backwards. The slow is onto Jims as the wild growth is up. He's been slowed. Can Godbro get it with the intervention?
They can't quite get in there as we see him leaping once again. I thought Morden was going to throw him back on towards the tower then. That didn't quite work out for him though. But one thing that Wolves has done here is done a lot of damage to that Giants lineup. They forced them to back away from this inhibitor turret, and it's not going to be a dive like we saw from in the last game against Gambit. They're actually pushing out as Samox comes in from the side, but Wolves have left a naked inhibitor behind.
They'll be happy with the turret. They'll be happy that when they decide to go aggressive, they can pick it up. And I was talking about the map control. I was talking about how they had the turret advantage, but Exeter is just split pushing and going to be waiting to use that Destiny almost defensively. He's going to actually start using it up. We'll see he's going to dive into in the middle lane. Forellenlord's been caught up. The command protector is up. There is no wild growth. He's actually used the shockwave as well to make sure Exeter doesn't go any further, and he survives the gank. But the question is, how do Wolves stop the split push? How do they answer, what do they use to answer Twisted Fate?
Oriana's got to go there. I mean, she's the one with the teleport, which is right now not up, obviously. Yeah. But that's really the one thing that they've got to be safe with this one. They can't allow that Twisted Fate to be down there and send someone that can't get into the fight. As Baron here is almost going to go down. They tried for the steal. Didn't work out for them. Svenskeren puts the ultimate on himself. They're hammering away at Samox, but he just gets out of range of Coutard. That'll be a 1-for-1 engagement as the repel comes in. That was a brilliant move from Samox to keep himself. He would have died there.
Great repel. I wonder if it would have caught one of the little spiderlings, maybe just on the way out, but an awesome use of that, just making sure that he mitigates the spell, gets away from the damage and survives. But Coutard's positioning was great. We've seen, if I remember, it was CLGNA picking up a very sneaky Baron a couple of months ago without even going into the Baron pit. They just had Caitlyn sitting on the outside using that massive range, and Coutard was putting damage down the entire time that Svenskeren was in there and staying alive with the intervention. But a number of members of Giants with this Baron buff on, they're in the position of power. They've got the gold lead, they've got the stats lead, with the exalted Baron Nashor buff helping them out. I think they're going to be looking to make some plays now.
And that was a good one as well from Giants, because let's not forget, just before that they lost one man. A couple of them were very, very low. They forced them away. Yes, that Twisted Fate move into middle didn't actually get them a kill, but what it ensured was that Forellenlord was super low and had to go back to base. And then they went just straight into Baron because they knew that Wolves weren't going to be there as a 5-man unit and therefore shouldn't be able to take Baron. Okay, Svenskeren flashed over the top and tried to get the steal in the end, but it worked out. It was a big power play from Giants.
Yeah, and they're now in this power position. Not only did they, get the buff and put themselves in a good position, they picked up a number of key items as well. If you look at the itemization there on the bottom left, Elise managed to pick up Leandri's Torment and Warmog's armor with her last back, which is a massive, massive spike in damage and defense, On the same token, Babetta was able to pick up that Runic Bulwark, which you can see is not in the hands of Copenhagen Wolves. And in actual fact, if I look at it, I don't even see an Aegis of the Legion there as well. So the defensive statistics is really going to be helping out the Giants. That magic resist to handle the splash from Kayle as well as that burst from Forellenlord.
Yeah, they're going to have to hope that the intervention's enough, really, to be tanking through the damage that's going to come down. The Rabadon's Death Cap is finished on Twisted Fate now as well. Obviously, Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer for the AD carry. Just wondering how much gold he's actually sat on there as well, the Ash. That's why. I was going to say, I'm sure he had those items about 10 minutes ago. Not quite 10 minutes ago, but he's actually sat on above 3,000 gold. And as I say, that Bloodthirster is finished.
Yeah, it's a huge spike again. You're going to spend that money, put that in the back pocket, get that lifesteal. Once we get those stacks up, the damage is going to be, even higher, even more, more impactful. Kaltod is only about 1,700 gold behind, though, so you can see him sitting he is 1,700 behind. He's still got 1,700 in the bank, so he's going to be able to even out that damage a little bit. But I think if they can keep him safe, he's got the range to do so. He's got the champions that'll be able to keep him, in the back line. I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on him in these upcoming team fights to get as much damage possible and really turn the tide of it, because Giants are going to be focusing Kale, Orianna, and Kha'Zix, because they're going to be the ones that are in their face with that shorter range.
We saw Kaltod there doing 2 or 3 hits, or maybe even 4. But either way, it didn't really hurt Morden. That's the problem that they have going on right now. As we can see again, where Giants are pushing down in towards this bottom lane. It's Jimbones that's actually gone down there. He's hitting for about 850 when those crits come in, which they're doing with the Phantom Dancer, that Infinity Edge in there as well. And he is very, very dangerous. Not to mention the fact that he has the arrows. We are going to see Twisted Fate coming in.
It's just going to fizzle, unfortunately, because... leap to safety, get himself away from the gold card. He's seen the positioning and, had very good reaction times to move away there, but it does allow them to take the tower. Ferenanor has been caught up by Jimbones. Who's going to win this fight?
Well, it's looking like it's Jimbones as he flashes in, but what a flash over the wall from Ferenanor. In comes Defigio with the Lulu to finish off the kill. And there were 2 flashes that were brilliant in their own right, but Ferenanor getting the advantage in terms of getting away.
Take a look at this now. Godbro's leap forward, tosses out those missiles, it puts a slow down, but Exter, great reaction once again, uses the Twin Shadows, slows both Kaltod and him, but Ferenanor is teleported in, motoring with those boots on fire. Can he get a kill onto Samux?
He's going to get right on top of Samux, but the problem is that Shockwave is down from that last encounter, and I don't think he's going to have the control without it. Samux will walk away, and actually they did have Extermin in that bush waiting and turn things around.
And very, very important about that is the fact that teleport is down. Teleport is not available to them. Ferenanor was relatively smart in his positioning there because he ran along the grass. He didn't step into that top lane until the home guard buff had sort of worn off and that massive flame trail behind him had stopped. So I think the Giants will have been, knowledgeable enough to say, all right, look, Ferenanor was low. He went back to heal, so most likely teleport is down. But by not showing the movement speed earlier, it just makes him question it a little bit. And for the duration of that teleport being down, Exter's Twisted Fate split pushing is really going to help them. And I think you see Morden was split pushing there on the bottom lane as well. Giants, they don't really want to pick a single engagement here. They've got that single target spell focus, blow somebody up, and then take a map objective, and they're just going to keep split pushing until the Copenhagen Wolves make something happen.
One problem that they have there is that obviously Extermin can't split push that bottom lane because he's not going to be able to get into position with the Destiny because of the range limitation on it. Obviously the teleport is down, and Extermin at the end of the day will be closer to it there at the end, but that's not something that they want to risk any kind of 4 versus 4 encounter there. And as we can see, Wolves are coming down now in towards this open inhibitor. Morden just runs in there as the Ash Arrow going to land onto Godbro.
Intervention comes down, the shockwave goes out. I think that whiffs absolutely everybody. Babetta landed a very nice crescendo on the back line of Copenhagen Wolves, but because he was with 3 members of the Wolves, they could smell blood and they shut him down. Svenskaren's the next one to fall in this particular engagement, but the Wolves are running back. They don't have the damage to close this out. Kaltod has been untouched up until this particular engagement, and this is messy. Triple kill for Jimbones is once again, he's been left untouched. That'll be the quadra for him, and the final pen to steal from Morden. Passive ticking away. That was a huge, huge, huge engagement. Gonna carry on chasing down the lane.
That shockwave.
It missed everybody.
It missed everyone.
Didn't do a thing.
The thing is, I think he had it on Kha'Zix, who was supposed to jump in, and then he was supposed to press the button, and I think he hit it too early. I think he hit it before that Kha'Zix actually jumped in. I'm sure with the help of a replay we could nail it down properly, but it didn't pick anyone up, and that was the real big thing in that fight. And now Jimbones, he did take a bit of damage, but he was pretty much the entire time hammering away at them, gets rewarded at the end of it with a quadra kill. They're going to be taking down this inhibitor turret. There's still a good 10 seconds on Wolves to come up here. Svenskeren does come back up just in time. Now the Baron is available. Now this is going to be interesting because Giants have Morden fairly low. He's their big tank in this lineup, and I'm wondering if Wolves are going to say, right, spawn, full HP, Baron, go.
you also have to give... we are going to jump into a replay of that particular fight as we wait for these two teams to set up. Joe, take us through this one.
Yeah, so here we see once again that shockwave in. Actually, it was a little bit too late. That was after that happened. No, there it is. The shockwave went down, and it didn't hit any of them. They tried to put it on Nigop Pro. It was on the steps themselves, and it didn't really do what they needed. We know what happens after this. Let's switch back into the live game because we are going to see both teams starting to get around Baron.
While we see that the Baron has been started, we do need to give props to Babetta's crescendo there. It locked up members of the Copenhagen Wolves. Now take a look at this. The Ash arrow is coming out. Godbro's been stunned up. Baron is bashing away behind him, but the Wolves are grouped up as a tight-knit 5. Can the Giants get in there and separate them?
This is going to be a tough one for Wolves. We saw Morden was the scary bear running them away from that one. Baron, of course, has got no damage on it right now. Did reset itself. And Wolves at the back of things. They've got that Oracle on, so they're able to clear what's thrown down towards the back of the pit, as Baron is going to be started off here. Jimbones doing a couple of hits onto it, but Wolves at the back, they're still there as a unit. Well, are they going to have the health when they go in? Are they going to have the coordination to land that all-important shockwave where it needs to be?
And where do they put their focus as well? Because Ash is going to be behind this Elise, behind the Twisted Fate Ghosts, behind the Gold Card, behind the Bear. And, you know, they've got this really big interference team that's also a huge amount of damage. I mean, Volibear, if left unchecked, has got that execution on his friends. He has the ability to deal a lot of damage. And Jim Bones has finished a Guardian Angel. So not only has he got all of this damage and this really great, you know, frontline bear protection, he's going to come back to life once you've killed him. So the Giants are in a very, very good position. They've got a great 10,000 gold lead. And it just looks like they want to brute force this middle lane inhibitor.
Yeah, and that's a great move as well from Giants to push that lane right out there. They've stuck a ward in so that they've got vision of everything coming down. They can quite happily start Baron here and then peel off of it afterwards because they're going to know exactly when Wolves come down through that jungle. Their wards are going to disappear as Deficio takes them down, but that's what they can do. As Wolves here are actually headed down that middle lane now, with both teams having a naked inhibitor. Either of them could like do this whole run around the side and go for that inhibitor and push in for the base race, as we are going to see the Ash Arrow coming down onto Pharrell. They're going to be forced to fight.
Well, the Wild Growth comes out, he immediately knocks everybody up, but the intervention was on top of that as well. Godbro's gone so deep. He's the first one to be dropped. They immediately reply into Samex. That's both of the top laners down. Now the Wolves jungler is out of this. Do the Wolves have enough damage to win this battle? With Kautar down, that's another triple gale for Jim Bones' Ash. As you can see, Exeter closing the fourth kill of the battle out. Deficio's on a run, but look at the bear. He is chasing, he is running. Eats a Glitterlance. It's not going to be enough. The Majestic Roar comes out, and it doesn't do anything. Deficio carries on running, lands a Glitterlance. Morden wants this kill. Morden wants to nom. The Fear comes out, doesn't do anything, I'm afraid. And the biggest chase of the game so far gets Deficio away and allows Giants to get the inhibitor.
Well, he stayed alive, but I'm not sure that his team's going to be able to suffer the same fate from this one. They've got minions coming in here to tank up those turrets. The Home Guard boots, well, they're not really going to be helping him out here because he doesn't have the damage. He's going to polymorph Morden down. He's going to get in there and just try to be annoying right up front with them. But Giant's going to focus him down super quickly. There is the very much delayed ace. And we are going to see Giants take out the Nexus and win their second game here in the European LCS.
Congratulations to Giants Gaming. It was a good game. It was an even game for such a long time in that matchup. The Copenhagen Wolves, they should be proud of their performance, but when it came down to it, when it came to those team fight engagements and, you know, making the right play at the right time, unfortunately they just fell a little short.
Well, sadly enough, proud of your performance is just not enough to pick up those points that you need. They go 0 for 5 here. Not the start that they wanted, not the circumstances either coming into today's two big games for them. Either way, that's enough here from us at the commentary desk. We're going to throw it over to our Happy 3 over on the analyst desk to break down all the action from that last game.
Yes, we are the Happy 3, so thank you very much, Joe and Quickshot, for taking us through the action there. And actually a very even game between Giants and Wolves, and honestly that game could have tipped either way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it was all down to that one little misstep by Wolves to kind of get the game in the favor of Giants. Unfortunately for them, going 0-5 now in the first 2 weeks, it's not a good position they want to be in, but at least they can look forward to next week where they will have Bjergsen, I believe, back in the mid lane.
Yeah, well, let's not hang around. Let's jump straight into the replay we've got here. Of course, it was the big quadruple. You've already seen it once on your screens, but we want to take it through it with an expert eye.
All right, let's give you a situation. I mean, as Dean was saying, it was already shown, but it was 5-5, 59,000 to 52,000 for the Giants. And we'll just go ahead and take you in the replay and show you exactly what happens here, and XPK will break it down for us.
Yeah, so pretty much Giants just initiate with the arrow when they see the chance. And what you think is that it's going to be a good fight for Copenhagen Walls, because Oriana is going to be able to ultimate everyone there. But she doesn't catch anyone, and Sona reacts really fast and does a great ultimate. Like, she just jumps and ultimate 4 people. And if you notice, pretty much those 4 guys behind did nothing but hit Sona, while the rest of Giants was killing his team. And now everyone is full. Exter is full, Volibear is almost full, Elise is full, As is full, and they just chase them and start picking up kills. As is really low now, but she survives good enough time. Elise and Volibear survive really low. No, Elise doesn't even survive, but Volibear does, and just pick
an
up
awesome
people.
jump into a volley to get taken down.
And there is As survives, and she gets the quadra kill.
And that's the scumbag pentasteal right there.
Yeah.
I mean, the bear is there, and he doesn't care.
I thought you were saying instead of scumbag, scumbear.
Well, he's smarter than the average bear. I got no more.
He's been saving that one.
I've been wanting to use it for ages. I never get the chance for Chaos Volibear. It's not fair, but yeah, I mean, it was a close run thing, and I wonder why Ferelon didn't put the ball on top of Kha'Zix, because Kha'Zix was going to jump into the fight.
That's what I thought as well. That's why I thought it was going to be a good fight for them. I saw Kha'Zix jumping, and I was like, okay, he's going to jump in the middle of 4 guys or 5 and ultimate them. But then just put on the floor and completely miss everyone. Just hit Elise, which is not a tank with Warmox and Rylai. You shouldn't hit that guy.
Hey, we saw Alex Idge doing the exact same thing in the Season 2 semi-finals against Taipei Assassin. So these things do happen as players. And you know, Oriana is one of those champions. Actually, he's a real pretty high-skill champion.
Yeah, you can't change a game. Like, that fight, he could have won it alone, or he could have lost it like he did with that ultimate. That's the thing with Oriana. It's really risky to do a good ultimate sometimes. When you want to hit a lot of people, sometimes you just miss everyone by 1 finger, not even.
So, I mean, is there anything you see from these teams? For example, Giants, obviously, you know pretty well, I would guess, as well as in the likes of Wolves. I mean, Wolves are technically 0-5 now, but every game they've played, they've actually looked really good.
Yeah, they did really good, and then they just miss something. They need to learn how to finish game, how to do those fights at the end. Like, they always seem to fail on those. Like,
I mean, if I recall, all 5 games they've played, they've actually led from lane phase. Every single one of them. So if they could just pull something together, they're going to be a pretty scary team.
Even here, you could see they were leading. They were the one pushing in their enemy base. They were going for the inhibitor, and then they just didn't know how to take it or what to do there, and they just got initiated and died.
They just initiated a little too quick. Well, that is it from us. Let's head over to Shox with an interview with a member of the winning team.
Yes, I've got Exter here, the mid for Giants, and we've got Ocelot to translate. We found a use for him today. Sorry, also. Anyway, Exter, can you guide us through the team comp and the picks and the bans?
Resta potencial a su jungler y da mucho potencial a estos jungler no más.
So basically, they wanted to impact they wanted to make sure that the jungle impact was really huge, and they provided it. So basically, everything under the plan.
You were falling a little bit behind, but what did you think going into late game? You had that Ashe and that TF. Were you sure that you would make it against their team comp?
Nuestro legging era muy bueno, estando free pulseados, como hicimos, con AR, con Twisted, y queríamos mantenernos separados, con Elise también, y estábamos separarlos y aprovechar su error.
So basically what I wanted to do is that with TF, they wanted them to commit mistakes, overcommit, you know, and make sure that the late game is theirs, you know, because of the CC and stuff, damage overall. He didn't say it, but I guess he was as well thinking about Oriana as well. But TF, late game is just insane against melee, so.
Okay, you're obviously growing throughout the season. What do you need to work on to get even better?
¿Qué tienes que mejorar para ser mejor equipo?
Hombre, tendría que ampliar mi variedad en medio de campeones y mejorar nuestro team play y nuestras jugadas a nivel 1.
He has to improve his champion pool, and they have to improve the level 1 fights as well, and that's basically it.
Okay, gracias, Jose y Exter. Thanks. So let's go over to Quickshot and Joe one last time to take us through today's matches and take a look at the results.
Thanks a lot, Shock. So, some good games today here. I feel a little bit sorry for Copenhagen Wolves and all that because they've done so much work with, you know, everything, the odds stacked against them, and they just couldn't close out 2 games there in a row. Sad for them.
And I think Demo was saying, you know, all the games as well, they've been leading from the laning phase.
Yeah.
I still remember when they were playing against Evil Geniuses, they got first blood against them, and they responded to the Twisted Fate gank in the bottom lane so well with Kautoid playing, I think it was Zyro, the teleport. They're playing so well, and with all the roster changes, with having a you know, their mid play is going to be swapped out, having the problems with the test. They're playing really well, and I cannot wait to see them solidify their roster and get a practice regime going because they are going to be a force to be reckoned with as the weeks go on.
Well, aside from the problems with tests as well, they don't quite have their gaming house here sorted in Cologne. On Saturday morning, when they obviously played in their first game there, they were up since 3 a.m. to go to the airport as well. So it's been a long, tough weekend for them so far. But let's take a look anyway at the results that we've had here today. Week 2, day 2 of the European LCS.
Evil Genius is picking up a win against the Giants, and then, of course, Dragonborn's surprising, maybe, to picking up a win against SK Gaming.
Yep, and then we finished off the day with 2 more losses for Copenhagen Wolves. Gambit taking them down first of all, and then that loss that we've just seen with Giants coming out on top.
So that moves us into starting to wrap up the day. I think we needed to award an MVP. So, Joe, why don't you let everybody know who the MVP is?
It was a hard decision today because there were quite a few candidates for that one. In the end, though, we had a good chat about it here in a little break there with the interview, and we decided that Shushay is probably the man of today. You know, it was that boring time where Demon was tearing what's left of his hair out, you know, trying to get some action going there, and then Shushay just turned it on, landed that combo, disintegrated 2 men, and obviously Dragonborn then went on to take down SK Gaming. Definitely a great win for them.
And, you know, we highlighted that play as well right at the end of the matchup, and I still see Peke's look when that final spark landed and Ocelot's HP just disappeared. He was like, what happened? How did that play? So congratulations to Shushay and a really powerful Lux performance.
Well, guys, that's it from us here at the commentary desk today. Don't forget, if you want to see any of the VODs, anything you've missed today, get yourselves over to lolesports.com. Don't forget that spoiler button down in the bottom left. If you've not seen any of the results and you don't want to spoil yourself, we're going to throw it over to Shox for some final thoughts.
Yeah, what a day here again in the LCS studio here in Cologne, seeing Dragonborns grasp their first points, EG consolidating their place at the top. There's just so much more to come. And next Saturday, we'll see Wolves taking on Fnatic, Gambit Gaming taking on Giants, followed by Against All Authority versus the Wolves, and a cracker at the end, EG versus Fnatic. But of course, you don't have to wait till Saturday for our League of Legends fix. You can tune in to the North American Championship Series on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time or 10 p.m. Central European Time, where CLG takes on Vulcan in the first match of the day. That's it for the weekend from every one of us here in the studio, and I'd like to extend a special thanks to XPK over at the analysis desk for helping us out all day. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.